Welcome to this presentation on Earth Stakeholder Land Management Solution. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you how we can use this platform to acquire land for a transmission project or for other types of project. This is going to be a short transmission line, how we can acquire land efficiently while respecting our obligations with this platform. So right now I'm looking at one dashboard. As you can see on my home page, I have one dashboard. I'm the project manager. I like to look at my project and I like to see different metrics. First thing, I'd like to see what's the initial contact status. We sent our field crews and they had a quick conversation with most of the landowners in that area, and they're reporting if the first contact was positive, negative, potentially they didn't meet with them. So that's the first metric I wanted to track to try to push the next steps. And then other metrics that this tool could generate is, for instance, the number of areas that you've signed, number of agreements that have been signed, number of parcels that are linked to those. That could be represented by a staff member as well, who signed how many acres. You could have a view of the communications that have been done over time on this project, different ways. We're going to come back to the relationship management aspect of this platform. And yeah, so there are certain metrics that potentially you want to track. Others could be around the agreements that you're trying to sign. So all these agreements, they are in negotiation. One is active right now. None has been rejected. And how is that's going to evolve over time? I can monitor that from a map, from my KPIs here, from my pie charts, and what have you there. So this is one example of one dashboard that has been configured for this project, and you could use different filters to change the content. And that's just one example. There could be many. There's a lot of out-of-the-box predefined reports and maps and others in this platform. I'm going to show you another one, but keep in mind that this is all very configurable and can be adapted to your specific needs. This one to start has 4 maps showing me the status of option agreements, temporary storage leases, easements, off-corridor accesses. So these are types of agreements, and with their status there, are they active, in negotiation, rejected. That is a visual, way of seeing that data on the map, but there's also the tabular view, so where I can monitor all the agreements with their status, the ID, the parcels that they cover, the stakeholders, the dates, expiry dates. So of course, there's going to be more information underneath, but in the report I could display that. I could display the conditions that come with those parcels. I could display the information about the stakeholders and their contacts. So if somebody is going to go to the field, potentially they need access to those contacts. They can have access to this information in this way, or that's something that they can bring with them on the mobile app. So we'll talk about that. There's payments also linked to agreements, and as part of land acquisitions, we'll also talk about that during this presentation. But before taking you somewhere else, maybe I'd like to explore that map. And actually, I'll show you that beyond customizing your own maps in your own dashboard, there is a standalone map tool embedded with the SLM platform that is defaulted to have the Google background. It could display other information. There's a satellite view as well here, and you could also display other image in the background. And it's also displaying here several layers. In this case, it's displaying the proposed routes for that transmission line, the actual substation, and several land parcels in the area. You could search in the map. I'm in the area of Milford, Massachusetts. So over here, as you search, it's trying to search really like in Google, and it's also searching in Earth SLM. So what are the records associated with this type of name, for instance? You could search for somebody's name as well. If I'm looking for a stakeholder in my database, potentially I'll retrieve the person using just a search here. So that's something will be interesting to search with the platform. There's also other layers you could turn on and off. Some of them will be around infrastructures, could be indigenous land, Native American land. It could be assets, it could be roads, it could be railways, water bodies. You could customize it with any layer that you want. Some layers would be provided by the system, for instance, the municipalities, the U.S. counties, the state, the federal Senate seats, and what have you. So these are represented. If I zoom out a little bit, with all their geographies as well. So for instance, this one here is Worcester County, and then next county here is Norfolk County. So for each of them, actually, you're able to, if I drill down into that organization here, you're able to see that this is data provided by the platform directly. Okay, so the officials that are here linked to that organization with their titles, they are updated on a monthly basis. So when somebody changes their contact change, or then you have access to the most accurate list. So that's something very powerful with the platform, that beyond tracking your projects and land parcels, you also have direct ability to turn on and off, elected officials in the US. That's pre-built. Other layers, like I said, could be customized and imported. When I say customized and imported, so the data that we are seeing here, some of that data will already be in your company's geospatial database, your Esri, potentially. So we don't want you to reinvent the wheel here. We will connect to it. And so this information from your Esri that you wish to share here, for instance, the parcels would also be in your GIS system. We would consume them, and we would allow you to attach information to it and potentially share it back with your GIS. But there's going to be a connection with your GIS here to re-exploit the geometry. Whereas if we think about other types of layers where the stakeholders are located, potentially some information you will manage in the system here without them being in your GIS. So for them, you will be able to actually import your shapefiles using the geometry import file here, and just upload, any layer that you want on this map. So that's to display stuff on the map. Like I said, you could switch the view, show the satellite, for instance, and you can also interact with the layers that are displayed on the map. So for instance, clicking in this parcel, I get a subset of information that's related to the parcel. If I want to know more, I can click on that parcel here to review the key metadata linked to it. As I can see on the left-hand side and on the main screen here, there's a few fields, and there's several pieces of information that could be linked to that parcel. To help me summarize that, we have a reports section where, for instance, here we've represented the key metadata that you wish to see for every parcel that you're looking at. So we've sort of centralized here the identifier, the area, the various fields about this parcel, but also the acquisition details. So the fact that you have, well, an expired early access agreement, an active option agreement with some key dates and representatives and what have you there. So you have some agreements on this parcel. You also have agent notes, communications, so emails, in-person field visits, phone calls, where you've been able to document was the progress and the risks and the comments from your stakeholder. So this is all linked to your parcel, really. And just a quick word on actually those communications that you have tracked, those agent notes. That's going to be very easy to input those in the SLM tool. Some will be done directly from the mobile app because field agents will be out there in the field. Some will be done in the web app that I'm showing you now, where you will enter the notes of your interactions, your interaction with your landowner here. And the tool here could help you improve your writing, fix your errors, translate. So if you've had a conversation in Spanish with your landowner and you want to translate to English, for instance, there's tools and the AI generated that help you save time in putting your notes. There's a tool that helps you generate the summary of that record of consultation as well. And there's a few menus on the side where you're going to be able to select the stakeholder, the staff member, the date, the time, and what have you there that pertain to the interaction you've had. If you're sending an email to your stakeholder, or if they respond back, or if you have a meeting with them on Teams in your calendar, where you're going to use the Outlook integrator to populate that in the system. So if I'm sending an email here to my stakeholder, Don Lackerman, I could say, what's this project for? What's the project? What's the parcel? Potentially, what's the atmosphere? AI is also trying to suggest the atmosphere based on the text, which is pretty low for now. And so you're able here to link that to a task, link that to your agreement. Essentially what it does is that it adds a lot of those tags, all of those tags into the BCC field. And then when you send that email, then there's nothing else you need to do. Your email is tracked in the system and linked to all those records. We also have an option to avoid you having to click on the add-in and sync your emails. It could be totally integrated with your Outlook 365. So that's something we could also talk about to even, bring more speed into that tracking process. So these are for the communications. Link to a parcel, link to an agreement, link to a stakeholder in general. You have a lot of communications. They are coming from various contexts, the field, phone, emails, and so you need different data entry points for that. One thing I can observe, if I want to drill down into one of the related agreement, I'd like to show you a bit more about what we have for the agreement. So I'm going to show you this option agreement here, where you could see the acquisition details. I could see the sign agreement, the expiry date. I could see who was involved in terms of the stakeholders. So maybe there's the landowner, but it could be other stakeholders involved there. I have my agent notes. I have the parcels that are covered, because actually this agreement is not for only one parcel, it's for 2 parcels. Now, and inside this agreement, there's also a list of tasks that could be assigned to it. Some could be ad hoc tasks, but there could also be what's called a task chain or workflow to guide us, to shrink the time really to sign those agreements. So the way this has been set up, if I just open this task chain in a new window or in a new tab, you're going to see that for every agreement of type option agreement, actually, or early access agreement or surface, we want to do those 6 steps. We want to do a field visit. We want to document the title. We want to monitor the financial feasibility, evaluate, decide, exercise the option or not, and then do the final walkthrough. So we always do those steps. I can see now that we're at step number 5, and it's assigned to my colleague Christine. It was supposed to be done last week. She must have got a reminder of that. The manager will receive an escalation point if it's not done after a while, and those reminders are configurable. But this is a standard workflow process to help you go through the task and what needs to be done for each of those separate agreements. One thing I'd like to point out as well is the fact that you have documents that you can attach. So maybe it's the real document that attaches a Word or PDF, or it's actually a link to your SharePoint or your document management system. If your document lives somewhere else where you control versions, then you could just paste the hyperlink, and that's going to bring you right into the document section. For the documents that you have, you also have the AI capability to ask something, just what's inside those documents, and get some summary, ask questions about the document as well. So the AI is looking into those documents too. So just wanted to point that out. And one extra thing that you see here is the list of conditions or obligations, essentially, that are assigned to this agreement. For instance, there's an annual compensation. There could have been a one-off compensation. There's a gate management process. There's a gate code. There could be a few rules around entry notice or restoration of the land, post activities, etc. So these are obligations linked to the agreement. So really with this, what we've been able to do so far is that we've been able to start from a dashboard, from a project management standpoint, and drill down in the information, get some insights. We also went on the map to retrieve visually the parcel that was of interest for us. But sometimes people won't use those dashboards necessarily or maps, and so they might just need a good old search. So if I'm looking for somebody, my landowner I need to meet with today, well, I could just enter their name in the search bar, which currently is set up to search across the entire application. So it's retrieving its parcels, it's retrieving the different positions, etc. I could have said, well, I'm looking for specifically one individual record. This was the first on top. So, okay, this is my stakeholder. Fantastic. So it's easy to retrieve your stakeholder, the one you're supposed to meet with. And what you have access to is the insights about the relationship there. You can see the recent interactions you've had. yourself or your colleagues with this person. You could see here that this person has maybe one or more multiple positions. Actually, this one is an elected official from the town of Milford, and he's also a partner at a law firm. We could see his different contacts, And so if I'm about to meet with this person, let's say I'm over the phone, I'll do that from this interface here. If I'm out in the field, I'll do that from the mobile app where I'll go to his profile. I'll do the Ask AI, and I'll just do something like that. So you could really ask your own question, like you would in ChatGPT or other tools, or you could use the prompts that we have out of the box that are all around, trying to flag issues or risk to your relationships with your stakeholders, pretty much. And so this is giving you a lot of insights and also hyperlinks back into the original records where this is coming from. So it's not just inventing like AI can sometimes do. It's really pointing out to the actual records where this information is taken from. All right, and just wanted to highlight that from somebody's name, we could also do the other way around and find his sort of map or geospatial footprint. So there's a map tool embedded with every stakeholder record where you're able to see the various dots that pertain to this the relationship here. So I know that we've got a dot for his property there, but we got the agreements with the lanes that he possesses there as well. And there could be other things that are related to his profile that are geospatially represented. It could be open complaints or issues or different campaigns, and that would also be something that I could use or that I could want to represent on the map. So from the search bar, I was able to retrieve a person's name, and from here I'm actually able to go back to the map where we started in the other scenario. So just wanted to point that out, that everything is so well connected here that whichever way you're taking, you're gonna find matching information that's all well connected together. So different roles, different use cases, different users of the same system, but it's all reading from the same source here. Now I would like to show you quickly how powerful is this system. We've been focused on this Milford project since the beginning, but if I was to start a new project because I'm acquiring another series of parcels for another line somewhere else, and again and again and again, and potentially eventually I'll be maintaining those assets. I'll continuously need to pull up lists of stakeholders, engage with them, sign agreements with them. And so this tool at its core is built to help you manage those types of projects. So let's say I have a new project now in New Mexico. Okay, it's a permitting project, has the task chain that's defined here. We're going to do the lane owner outreach in a few steps. I could fill the details about the start date, end date. Maybe it's a project that's starting next month, and maybe that's something that is going to run for a few years, potentially. Maybe that's already started last month. And the objectives, there could be milestones. Yeah, and so I'll just save that right now just to create the shell for my project. And what I'll do in a few clicks, you'll see, is I'll create draft agreements for an unlimited number of people, essentially, that will overlap a company asset. So right now we are working on a line in New Mexico. My GIS team was nice enough that they have provided the line of the project. So I'm able to link this to the system. By the way, that was done through the GIS integration. So no one actually did anything here. The line was just available because it's one line that we're proposing. Where I want to bring your attention is in the planning section where you're trying to identify who are the landowners involved around this project. Well, you have a tool here that will allow to retrieve them. The select parcels feature, which could be done because this time I had a line provided, a shapefile. I could do the company asset overlap here and link everyone, the occupants potentially that are overlapping this line. If I didn't have that line, I could have still identified those parcels of land by entering a geography. So I could have simply opened the map tool here, And bear with me a second, it's displaying another layer. And so I could have just clicked to define an area and say, okay, this is the area of my project. So whichever parcel ends up in the middle of this, just bring them in there in my project. So that's the enter geography filter type here. I'll just do the company asset overlap once again here, because I quite like this one. So let me just show you that. Maybe I'm stuck. I'll just do this again. Okay, so linking everybody that I can possibly here. And so based on the actual parcels that I have in the system, and in this case, this is a subset, but I have been able to retrieve, in this case, 28 parcels and 28 stakeholders linked to those parcels. This could have been 2,800 or way more than that as well. So these are the parcels that have been identified here and the stakeholders. And I know that the first task I need to do will be to start my landowner outreach. Okay. Once I'll be advanced enough in the early, outreach and early stages of negotiation, well, I will actually want to create agreements for each of those landowners. And if it's a high level, if it's a high number of agreements you need to create, you don't want to create them one by one. So I'll be able to use the batch agreement creation tool here for that purpose. So if I want to create option agreements for all of them, give them the task chain for this agreement process, mark this as planned, and maybe assign that to myself or assign that to my colleague Francis, and I'll say that the agreements geometry will be calculated eventually from the actual original parcels there. And one option we have at the bottom is that you could merge agreements for the same owner or the groups of owner. Now I have 28 landowners who are all different, so it's not going to do anything. But if you had several agreements with the same landowner, you have the option potentially to group them into one. So what I did in a couple of clicks there was to essentially I populated 28 new agreements in status of plan, and they're all ready now to be worked on. So they're all created. They all have their stakeholder linked to it based on the parcel, and they're at the first task of what we need to do to acquire that land. So this is really, really, really powerful and fast when you're signing new agreements and you want to document them and create them in bulk. There's other types of plan where this will also apply, the engagement plan. Some customers, after their lines are built or their assets are built, they need to operate them. They need to manage the safety around them. They need to track public awareness campaigns. So you could have different types of engagement plans here for that purpose. And some other tools that we have to support those processes could also be explained. For instance, we have a tool that sends communications in bulk to distribution lists. So sometimes when you're signing a new project or when you're doing a maintenance, you need to quickly send the same email to, let's say, all those stakeholders. So you have access to doing that in bulk with distribution lists and smart communications, for instance. But that's for another day. Right now, I'd like to conclude this presentation by showing you a little bit of the financial details around the agreements that you can manage in your ERT SLM product. So I'll go back to the original option agreement we were working on together before, where I've showed you pretty much everything under this agreement so far, except for the payment section. So if you remember in the conditions here, there was an annual payment. I think there was a one-off payment here somewhere as well. So the payment terms from the negotiated agreement are extracted here. So I see here that there's a single payment that has been made. There's a monthly payment that we've set up. Okay, there's an annual payment that we're also setting up. So essentially, you could create a new compensation item based on the terms of your agreement. So who is that payment going to go to? It could be a group of people or a trust or an individual person. You could say, what's the amount? And let's say this is the original amount. Now, is this a single payment? Or is this a recurring payment? In the case of a recurring payment, potentially that $1,000 you know, if the end date is 10 years away or 20 years away from now, probably you'll need to pay more every year than 1,000. So you'll be able to apply CPI with a base value, and essentially when you're due for that payment, maybe in 8, 9, 10 years from now, well, every year essentially, you're going to compare the base value with the current CPI, and that's going to change this amount here, for instance. So that's one way of setting this up. What happens that you sort of establish the recipe here, and then the system converts that into payment items. And so for each of those payment terms that you have, you can see the planned date of payment, the installment that this is. I can see some payments have been done, some are still in progress. So it's very useful there. With all those due dates, I could really plan my forecast, organize my payments with that. So just one last thing I wanted to show you here is if you're in the finance team, you might want to organize your payment campaigns, and so the system is organized to help you create a payment campaign anytime you need to do that. So if I want to do a payment by the end of this month, I could organize that. I'll show you when the payment of the parcel we were looking at was paid. So that was in January. So in this case, the system was, because I mentioned the date that we wanted to pay at the end of January, the system told me, okay, these are the payments that are due, and I was able to process them, or at least I worked through the workflows to make them approved, ready to pay. So what happens now is that I need to inform my financial system that these payments are due, and this is an example of a report you could export as Excel to re-import back into your SAP or Oracle or your financial system to inform them that these payments are due. And essentially, you will want those financial systems to populate back the fact that these payments were made, when, with the receipt, so to have the evidence all kept in your platform here. So that's very operational. One thing I'd like to show you when, as we're ending this, is the dashboard for payment forecast, which could always be customized. But just showing you, for instance, now the payments that are due in the system that are not paid yet. I could also see the past payments and the amounts, as well as the upcoming payments for the future years. Obviously, that could be, as you can see here, filtered by project, by asset, by stakeholder, by parcel. So there's a ton of filters you could have there. But just to help you, I guess, manage your payments, your forecast, and the evidences of what has been paid, is this also tracked in your system? So thanks for spending that time with me today. I wanted to show you a little bit of our stakeholder and land management solution. Obviously, would like to spend more time with you to tailor this to your specific use cases and industry, but hopefully those features gave you a good idea of what this tool is capable of. So looking forward to hearing more from you when you have a chance, and thanks for spending your time with us today. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.